This is Listening with Franklin Livingston, and our guest is Christine Stoddard Sánchez.
I think also the concept of church is different now than it started, probably. Because nowadays you can get married in a church. Somewhere you can have a destination wedding. There'll be church and a priest or pastor. You pay them, they'll marry you, they'll send the certificate.
I mean, it depends. It definitely depends on the kind of church. Like in Catholic churches, in the Catholic Church, it's very strict about where you can get married, how the wedding ceremony can take place. You see these Instagram and Pinterest weddings that take place outdoors. You can't have the Catholic wedding like that. That's just not allowed. It has to be done in a church. There has to be a mass, blah, blah, blah. But there are many other denominations that are not as strict as that. And yeah, you can go to Las Vegas and get married in a chapel, and there's somebody who's ordained who's performing the ceremony.
But I think again, we go after this idea, this cultural representation of church. Whereas the term church, it gets confusing to a lot of people. The real definition, the word comes from ecclesia, right? That's why in Spanish it's iglesias.
Yeah, iglesia.
Like Iglesia. So, ecclesia means a community of believers, a community of faith. It wasn't saint, etc., Catholic Church. Now, Catholic churches, in my personal experience, humble opinion, are not very community oriented. They are more event based, soup kitchen or social justice projects. But people who go to a mass, unless they are going there for centuries, it's not that you form a community where you are really doing things together. That's what my experience has been. I went to Catholic Church on 25th Street, Manhattan, 42nd Street. I once went here in Stanford. And in general, I think it's the same around the world when it comes to Catholicism.
Yeah, the idea is you're able or supposed to be able to take communion at any place that's performing mass. So that because you're supposed to get communion once a week and there should be no excuses, right? So anywhere you go in the world, you're supposed to be able to take mass.
It's more, it has become a ritual. But no one asks you, what does it mean to you? Why are you doing it? Does it make you become a better human being, better believer, saved, using your language? And it ends up becoming a ritual where I really feel sorry for the congregants of Catholic Church because they don't know why they are doing that.
Yeah.
And rituals that are meaningless, especially where the minds are becoming more, people's mind are becoming more logical and people want to learn. And this is not the era where even kids, you can't say, do this and they'll do this. Why? Right?
Yeah.
Why should I? So I think the why is missing. And it's in other denominations too. But since we began talking about Catholicism, and then there was a gentleman here last week and he said, Catholic Church needs to become humble, I think he said. And I agreed with him because this idea of using the term interfaith, they use that kind of terminology for people who might be Christians but are not Catholic. So if you want to marry, it's an interfaith or conversion. But I don't think they understand the priests, which Catholic priests used to be highly educated. I don't know right now, but they used to be, because my mother taught at a convent. It was a Roman Catholic Church convent, right? So I know that priests were highly educated and very smart guys. I don't know what's happening because these kind of stipulations, you use the term rule, right? These kind of, I think, rules and stipulations, these are just stupid. These things don't make sense.
Yeah.
And the ritual you're talking about, this gentleman said, and I said, yeah, I noticed that you walk into a Catholic church and you might be given just a wafer. They don't even do the body and blood of Christ. It's just that wafer thing, and that's it. And there are people who go to a mass regularly, and mostly are, in my experience, most people I saw in 3 churches here in the East Coast are elderly and Hispanic or Polish. I also once stopped at a Polish church, and these people, I think, are scared because the religion has also been scaring people that you're going to go to hell. Or
Yeah.
God's wrath is just there at the door if you don't do this thing. Because in their mind, this is the right way to do that. And I think a couple of days ago, I was talking to someone and I said, Catholic Church is not biblical Christianity. I know it's a very strong statement. And in rituals and all the stuff they do, and a lot of belief system, it doesn't come from the Bible. That's later on the leaders, they discern things. Favorite word I want to talk to you about, discernment too. They discerned and they then evolved and they came up with some doctrines and dogmas, and it became the Catholic Church.
And so much of it is 500 or even 1,000 years old at this point, and people are still doing it.
Right, because the thing is, people do it for 2 reasons. I remember, there was a very smart middle-aged lawyer. He and his family were very devout Catholics, right? And to the point he was sort of preachy about it. You go to the house and they don't know, oh, you are not Catholic. Oh, this is the great thing about this. The foundation. So the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, basic liturgy, Trinitarian God, salvation through Jesus Christ, eternal life, all that is there. But first of all, that hasn't been explained to a lay person's language. A person like me, I want a very simple language, right? I get stuck when we use heavy duty words. And I need to understand what that means, right? When we say salvation, what? You use the term saved. So I added that saved to build up the kingdom of God, right? Saved from what? I need to know that. Eternal life, what does that mean? So if you ask me, Franklin, you have sinned. Whatever you think is the sin, maybe you did not turn on this microphone. I want you to say this particular creed 25 times and then come back tomorrow. I would get confused.
Yeah.
There are people who would say, okay, I did that, now I'm done. I'm clear. But then there are minds who would say, why?
Right.
What difference does it make if I read it for once or 25 times? Because I don't understand. Right? So there's a discerning process, I think, the believers or followers should also have.
Oh, yeah.
You use that term. So tell me, what does it mean to you?
Well, when I think of discernment in the Catholic Church, what I know about it is there's a period that if you say, oh, I'm going to become a priest or I'm going to become a nun, you have to go through, and it's different whether you're Jesuit or Franciscan or Benedictine or whatever, but you have this period where you're kind of put through these different tests, but it's supposed to be about you deciding if this is the right path for you. And I think in life outside of a convent, you should be asking yourself that same question. Now, for somebody who becomes a priest, they might do it because of this ritual. And my ex and his entire family were devout Catholics, and nobody detracted from that. And over again, I would hear different relatives say that it's the beauty of the ritual, it's the ancient nature of the ritual, and this is why we do these things, because they've been done for generations, and that connects us to our ancestors, right?
So they had some logical understanding behind this ritual.
And I think that in any important aspect of your life, you need to ask why you're doing something. You said that yourself. And I think it's important to want to know, like, the fundamentals. It's not about dumbing anything down, but I want to know, like, what does this actually mean? That's something that my dad would ask a lot when I was a kid, not just of me, but of different adults in my life, when they would say, like, well, Christine has to do this and she has to do, okay, well, what does that mean? Why does she have to do that? What is that for? What's the purpose? And not that I've done it perfectly, but I grew up trying to ask myself that question every step of the way. It can be tempting to psych yourself out. I think some people will overthink and then they won't act out of fear because they don't want to make the wrong move. They're afraid, oh, I'll make a mistake if I do anything. Okay, but then you end up doing nothing. You don't want to do that either. But if you're going to make progress in life, and if you're going to make different commitments, you have to understand why you're doing anything. I'm not at grad school just for fun. It's not like a vanity degree. I have specific goals in mind. I didn't move to New York just because I thought it would be an adventure. Same thing. I have specific goals in mind. And I think it's important and healthy to adjust, right? Just because you do something for one reason doesn't mean that has to be the reason forever. You can change your mind about things, but you do have to be thinking critically, while at the same time being gentle with yourself, because if you don't have compassion for yourself, it's like you were saying earlier about relationships. Like, are you just being an exercise freak and controlling all of your food and obsessing over your appearance because you think that's the only way your spouse will love you? Well, what about your self-love first? If you don't love yourself, how can someone else truly connect with you? You're just miserable all the time and you don't even know who you are. I think discernment comes in all sorts of ways, but a lot of it comes from not doing anything actively, like waiting, giving yourself time to just think. And that can be sitting in quiet, in meditation. It can be journaling. It can be both. It can be also talking to different people, and not that you need their permission to do things, but just trying to understand, well, why are they doing things that way? Why did they make that decision? Would I want to do something like that, or would I want to do something different? It's hard. And I think
it is, because you have to be in a listening mode.
Right.
And that's not easy for a lot of us. And not rushing. As you mentioned, sitting in the quiet, embracing the quiet, leaving the distractions and focusing on the goal. And then one thing I want to add, when we set our goals, during the discernment process, we should never forget our own story and the values we have, because a lot of our values are rooted in our background, in our own story,
Right.
right? And sometimes I've seen people, they're setting goals that require some shortcuts or the routes that are in direct conflict with their values. And I think that should be part of the discerning process, because I've also seen them having this internal dissatisfaction, internal anxiety,
Yeah.
because their conscious is in contradiction with whatever they're doing. They might have approval of the popular culture, but because you use this phrase, I'm going to use that phrase because that's not the way they were raised,
Yeah.
right? And also, I'm going to add, in some cases, being raised doesn't mean at home by your parents.
Right,
Some
yeah.
people are not raised by the parents.
Right.
They are raised in orphanages. They are raised in boarding schools. They are raised by their community, or they were slaves. Still, like, slavery is a thing around the world.
Yeah.
In many countries, right? So their belief system that generated their values now is in direct conflict with their goals or the actions they have taken to meet their goals. And they never paid attention to the discerning process, because we live in a society where it's me, rush. I still remember I had a friend and I met her in London, and it was a very weird interaction, because she reminded me, I was in a dorm and I was just about to go up the stairs or building, no elevator, and she said, "Hey, excuse me." I didn't even recognize her. She said, "Do you have any painkillers? I have headache." And I said, yeah, sure, just wait here. So she remembered that. Fast forward, after a couple of years, she ended up in New York City. And we met. She actually helped me in one of my projects, and we met. And I offered her a ride, I think, from train station to the set. And it was 10 or 15 minutes, and she began crying. And she was like, "I'm so sorry," and all that. It's been a year. I came here, and I thought I'll have my play up at a stage and off Broadway, and I would do this and that. And I wasn't able to do anything.
Oh.
And then she was like, she was in acting school, that acting teachers say that, "Oh, you can start your own content." I don't even know how to hire a cinematographer, right? And these are real struggles.
Yeah.
So I wish I had time to sit with her and talk. That you should have, you said that one should be kind, you use another, compassionate, be gentle, right? Don't set yourself up to failure by having unrealistic expectations. Right. And again, why? If you want to have your play at Broadway or off Broadway, it wasn't Broadway, but still, why? If it's just to show your peers I accomplished something, I think that's a really stupid idea, because I've been there. Maybe I was not that serious, which I am really thankful for. And I still believe that if you want to get somewhere, if that's your call, if that's your destination, you'll get there. It doesn't matter. And I don't want to give political examples, but you will, right? And so there's no point. And I remember, like, this gentleman was going to hate me now. One of my acting coaches, highly educated MFA from Ivy League school, and he was trying hard to be in a network show, and now he just teaches. He's the guy who would always could talk like that to people, because he was so careful how he relates to people, because he was like, this is New York City, every second person is a producer of this channel and this channel, and now there's an HBO, and now there's like Netflix. Gotta be careful. But I don't think being careful helped him become a TV actor.
No.
Instead, he might have developed some sort of issues, because he was always scared, in my opinion,
Yeah.
of being himself. Like, I am not a reserved guy. I'm social, I'm outgoing, I'm an extrovert, depends. It changes. But when I relate to men and women, I usually don't make a lot of distinction in terms of the vocabulary and all. And I think he was the guy who would. And I don't know if it helped him. So, discernment. Why am I doing something?
Yeah.
Whether it's small little adjustments or large, what's the end goal? And what's the cost? As I mentioned to you earlier about the driving thing, if I'm going to get someplace 10 minutes earlier, and this is 60 miles we're talking about, on the cost of what? Killing myself, killing somebody else,
Yeah.
killing a bunch of people. So should I get there late? I can't prove myself that I was early. And I think that validation. I love the religious texts. And here, I don't think Catholicism, even Judaism, beyond Christianity, even Judaism or Islam, there are other religions too where these religions teach their people, followers, that you should be pleasing God. Your life, your actions should be worthy of God, rather than you're not to prove to anyone else.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, because our humanity, our DNA is like, I'm looking good enough, am I
Right.
skinny enough,
Yeah.
which you mentioned early on, and I don't care if I have to sleep early or I don't do certain things. At least people would say, oh God, Franklin doesn't have a belly. So what if he has a belly?
Right.
People who would genuinely be interested in being your friends or a lover or a husband, wife, cousin, brother, business
yeah.
partner, right? I think they would want to see more than that.
Yeah.
And people who get attracted to other people, they should also spend time in discernment.
Yeah, for
You know?
sure. Yeah, I mean, to go back to the word courtship earlier, I think if your goal is to find a life partner, then there has to be this period of, okay, I'm not just looking at attraction, I'm looking at this person's character and the different inner beauty that they have and how they relate to me during good times and bad times and everything in between, and how they relate to other people. Because if that's someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with, day in, day out, there's that saying about have to see how a man talks to a waitress. Always do. Like how if he tips the so-and-so or doesn't, yells at so-and-so, you need to see how he treats or she
No, I did
sees.
tip though. You want to check that? Oh, where's the receipt thing? Oh my God. Okay.
No, you just always like how somebody behaves around someone who has nothing to offer them, right? Are they kind or are they not kind? It makes a big difference because
But we can't see that on the apps. It's more like
No, yeah. Well,
so yeah. That's the culture we live in.
yeah. It's not what I choose. But yeah, I mean, I think even if you do find somebody on Tinder or something like that, okay, so maybe the first time you meet should be time where you're really just talking and get to know somebody that way, and also through doing different activities, like, and not just sexual activities, right? Like finding interesting hobbies and get-togethers where you can see how they behave in a natural environment. And maybe there are some challenges along the way, right? It's not all going to be fun and games, but that's part of getting to know a person.
That's very important. I think that's so important because the phrase I was using, this fairy tale phrase.
Yeah, happily ever after. Yeah.
There's no such thing.
No.
And I know in movies and all this fabricated world, we create that
Right.
imagery. But I think two people come together to share each other's.
Right.
And also this idea of building, I use this old-fashioned language, building each other up. It's very difficult in our pop culture because we have a tendency of saying, oh, so you think I'm not good enough? Instead of looking that I can maybe improve myself with the help of this person, we right away think he or she's going to judge me because they are maybe better than me. I have a friend, and I don't know how she phrased, but her point was that she's a very strong, independent woman, very feminist. And she was 22 when we had this convo. She was studying at Pace, so now probably she knows who she is. And she said, we like to date less, I think she said less intelligent men, right? And her point was, it's just great. You don't have any sort of fear that he's going to judge you or he is going to outsmart you and somehow. And in my mind, that was dumb. Because if a guy is smarter than you, you could learn from him the things you don't know.
Yeah.
And he can learn the things you have to offer. Because women, I think they have higher emotional intelligence. They are detail-oriented. Don't you think?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Emotional intelligence, I think because it's socialized, right, in little girls. And then detail-oriented, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe some things I prefer or I see when women do it, it's differently than a guy.
Oh, yeah. Well,
even the way we made coffee this morning, you were the one who were like, okay, this thing is little, let me put a napkin here. And I was like...
But probably because I was socialized as a little girl to be clean, to be neat, right?
You think I'm not neat and clean? It's just like, that wasn't my focus. My focus was...
Make the coffee.
Yeah, that's it, right? So... that's why this building up, leaving a room that I am with someone I can learn from. I am with someone who can help me become a better version of me.
Right.
And I know there are nasty people out there too who would talk to you in a way that you don't know.
Yeah.
And especially if you look like me, right? It's very easy to say or joke that, oh, maybe you are from a country where you don't have, I don't know what, you can say microphone or roads, right? So things have changed, but I think like in Iowa, the kids, college kids, once a guy asked me, hey, do you have ketchup in Pakistan? And I think it was an innocent question.
Aww.
And I don't know if it was me or it was somebody else shared this, and this is before social media.
Right.
Right. I mean, Facebook was a thing, but it wasn't the way people were posting nowadays. I think with TikTok, it's more global, maybe Instagram too. But that time, it was limited. And I think somebody told me they assumed that people in some Middle Eastern countries kids would go on a camel or they would ride a camel to school. And I think it's, we all are like that. I'm not going to say I am better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think everyone has their areas of ignorance, right? The difference is some people are willing to admit, I don't know everything and I want to learn more. And other people just think they're right about everything. They know everything. And if they don't know something, it's because it's not important. Why would they bother wasting their time learning it? Yeah, I think that's a horrible way to be. Life is just full of so many wonderful mysteries. Why wouldn't you want to soak up knowledge? And
Yeah, but I think percentage is very low because I know some people who are in cross-cultural relationship, but they are very broad-minded and very generous and accepting, and that's why I think their marriages are successful. Otherwise, I've also heard the stories. Actually, some scholars. I'm thinking of a scholar. She wrote a book or something, and maybe she teaches somewhere now, who was in a interracial relationship, and she was always mocked by her husband. I forgot which, either South Asian or
well, that's
somewhere.
horrible.
I know my singing teacher. She still lives in Manhattan, and she's from Ecuador. And she shared a couple of times her husband, former husband.
Good.
Yeah, was nasty. Yeah, I mean, and it was mostly cross-cultural issues. And my question was, why did you marry? She said I was 19 and this guy was very kind. I think he knew how to do chivalry, doors,
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and I don't know if he might have had some money too. I don't remember, but he was probably traveling there, and
Right.
so it was a disastrous marriage, and then I don't know who divorced whom. So in cross-cultural relationships, it's a little tricky. One has to be sensitive how you say it, because if, say, a couple is making coffee on their first date, great, and if one of them makes a remark toward the other person that, hey, let me help you because back home you might not have had a coffee machine or that kind
Right.
of, so it might not end well.
Yeah.
Unless they are both, they know each other's, this joking bands.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Sense
That
of
okay,
humor.
yeah, that okay. So we are in this banter now, and or like because I grew up on a farm, they know that kind of stuff. But other than that, I think I even learned after traveling to Asian countries, if people can't speak English, it doesn't mean they are dumb.
No, of course not.
No, I mean, where I spent
Right.
most of my years before traveling abroad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's natural to develop that. And these are excellent people, very smart, and especially doctors. I got to, in Kuala Lumpur, went to a medical complex. I got my flu shot in Vietnam, Hanoi. So they're not stupid people. It's just they can't express themselves in
Right.
English, right? And for some people, that's a biggie because they think if you can't talk, and yeah, we had a lot of Korean students in our program, and I think that they just came across dumb or because you share the air. Like cool kids will share, oh, we share the energy, we all are connected.
Yeah.
So you sense how the room is, how the other people are. And sometimes foreigners, they would take some time to translate their thoughts.
Right, yeah,
right?
of course.
And that moment of pause for the others is being an idiot or not knowing what to say.
Yeah.
And I've seen that struggle at government offices, which is really sad because some of the government sectors, they want you to be quick. Tell me what you want, right? And also there's a way we use, so I've noticed this in the healthcare. I'm saying it in a joking way, more like a comedic. So a Caucasian, say, a medical professional comes in, especially a nurse. So she will be very loud and crispy, like a waitress in Manhattan. And you're not feeling well, it's not that she's gonna say, "Hey, are you okay?" It's like, "Are you okay? What can I get you?" Very very sharp voice,
Yeah.
and you can get scared if you're not used to, as compared to someone from say India, because there are a lot of Indian doctors, Pakistan, Asia. They are taught, they are raised, as you would say, to use a very low register. Be polite, especially if you're talking to an elderly person, because that's another thing. Like with age, a lot of things change, and these might be minor things, but that can come across respect or disrespect or a confusion. For example, me, I learned that when you are in Japan, as an example, so you go to Korea, you do the same thing. I think it's slightly different. And then when you go to Malaysia, you don't do that because Malaysia is an Islamic country.
Right.
Your head only should bow in front of God, right? And I mean, people know I'm visiting, so they don't judge me. I don't care. But these mannerisms change. And I first time I went to Japan, I don't even want to go there, and I ordered hamburger because I thought that's a safe thing to eat.
Oh.
This was the first time, and I took out whatever I forgot, $10 or their own currency, yen, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was just giving it to the cashier, and she was telling me something. And it took me a few minutes to understand, oh, so you don't give the money in their hand. Instead, there's a tray. You push it on that. They take it because they think it's disrespectful.
Okay.
So you have to place it there, and then they take it and they put back the change. And then they do like this, and you do like that. I mean, I learned this thing easily.
Right.
And Japanese don't smile.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So if you're not used to, like, I am smiling all the time. I have to control my smile.
Yeah.
I'm probably not the best person. If you're wearing a mask, it's probably the best. But yeah, it's different. And
I had a Japanese colleague I worked with for almost a full year before I knew that his wife was expecting a baby. So I knew that he was married. I knew that his wife was back in Japan and that he was here. I had no idea he was going to become a new father until not even a week before the baby was born. He said, "Oh, I won't be able to come to whatever event because my wife will be here to have our baby." I'm like, what? And this is also, the first time I've really seen him smile in a year or two.
That was
Because-
extraordinarily
So
grand news.
so
Happy.
reserved. Like, this is your wife who you haven't seen in months, and she's going to have your son. What? This is the most excitement you can muster, is just a little smile?
I mean, it might be really big for him. See, that's the thing. Like some cultures, the dance, as an example, it goes all over the place. Or Latin dancing. I learned, I forgot, salsa 1 they do here, or they do salsa 2, because I was really confused. So I learned actually Latin dancing in Iowa. I started there. And I continued that in Manhattan. And the guy, I still remember his name, Ricardo. He told me this is different. He might have said it's wrong. And I said, why? He said this is salsa 1 or this is 2. I didn't know that. And it's done differently here at the East Coast.
Interesting.
So, but when you do Latin dancing, you are really into each other's space. And sometimes I have had the situation, if the other person hasn't showered, you can't even say that.
Yeah.
It's a bad breath.
Right.
So the same thing, like there are dances in the world where I think I went to an event. There was a very fancy Arab restaurant here and somewhere 34th Street and toward the water where the ferries.
Okay.
And so what they do is they make a circle, they hold hands, and they kind of like jump up and down. That's it. They don't get into each other's area. So I learned that, okay, so it's a little different, right? So those are the things where when we talk about multiculturalism, diversity, or interracial couples, or cross-cultural couples, I should say, something that one person does could come across disrespect to the other until they develop that understanding.
Yeah.
Some people don't even want to ask, what does that mean to you? Because there's always that fear. He's going to say this thing. And
Yeah.
I think communication. is the best
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. No, that's what I would say, and that's what I've learned is that it's better to ask. And if you are actually going to have a healthy relationship, then you need to be vulnerable with each other. And if you're scared about something or embarrassed or you're wondering if the other person is, then you have to ask those questions. You have to have a conversation. Otherwise, it can just lead to more sadness and anger and resentment over time, and that's not good for either of you.